Hello, everyone. It's Charlton. Please subscribe to my channel. Tap the notification bell. Like this video. That helps me to keep making videos. I would appreciate it majorly. So, I saw the story about Manafort and Hannity's text were released by the special counsel's office. I'm not sure, why they were released now, but they were, and it covers about 2 years worth of texts, I think. Maybe just a full year, from August 2017 up to August 2018. I think it's about a year approximately. I looked through them, pretty, not every last word, but with some detail, and a few things just sort of jumped out at me. I debated whether to make a video about this because I don't really just like to belabor this over and over again. There's not a lot of people that believe the thing that I believe, that basically, Hillary Clinton lost the election on purpose. That's my theory, and that, I suspected that Trump had her emails, the 33,000 emails, the one that were on a private server that she said at home, while she was Secretary of State. Many people believe that, foreign adversaries hacked into them, and probably multiple ones, whether it's the Chinese, the Russians. And I had a slightly different theory that I thought of sort of after the fact, after going over and over on this theory. And I thought that maybe even Trump, that was his impetus. That was his reason for running for president, because he knew if he could get through the primary, just get nominated, he could potentially win, because he could blackmail her into losing on purpose, and obviously whatever's in those emails would have to be bad enough to get her to do that. But it must have been bad enough for her to go through the trouble of setting up an outside server, then go through the trouble of bleach bitting it, deleting it, and destroying it so that nobody could ever see it again, including the FBI, etc. I based a lot of what I thought on this, how badly Hillary did in the election. When everybody expected her to win, she did so bad in the places where she needed to do good. She did fine where she didn't need to win, She did very good. It's only in places where she needed to do well that she did extraordinarily poor relative to Obama. I'm not going to go through this over again. But the numbers, in my opinion, defend what I'm suggesting. So, but then I came up with, in my last video, in my theory was all along that it was the Russians that provided these things to Trump. Sort of, because that's what he wants us to think. He keeps implying that he worked with the Russians. Trump does. He makes himself look suspicious intentionally every time the topic of Russia comes up. Every time the opportunity comes up. I'm not going to review every one of those, whether it's, during the press conference saying, Russia, if you're listening, I hope you have Hillary's emails, etc. Every time he has a face-to-face with Putin, he does things that intentionally make himself look suspicious. But you would think that would be, why would he do that? He would only do that just because he wants you to think it's Russia. And so I came up with this idea that maybe, because the only country, in my opinion, because he's just so adversarial, he's just that's just the way Trump is, that nobody really likes him too much on the foreign stage. Our traditional allies, and I'm not defending or whatever. I'm just saying that's just kind of the way it is. But the only country that does like him, loves him, is Israel. Israel has benefited greatly by Trump, big time, big time. And they have an amazing intelligence service, and at least that's my understanding. Like that you don't mess with the Israelis, So. It wouldn't be extraordinary for them to, they'd have the capability to do that kind of hacking. And so I had this idea that they provided those emails to him. So in these texts, that's just a little review. In these texts between Manafort and Sean Hannity, which actually, one thing that jumped out at me that's just a sort of silly side note is that it seems as though Hannity believes somebody's going to be looking at these emails someday, or is while he's doing it, because he just seems like he's talking the same way as he does on his show in some instances, and he's doing these long paragraph size text that are broken down with points in them and stuff. And it just seems like he's talking like he believes somebody's watching what he's saying. That's not really important. The other thing that stood out to me is how Jared Kushner comes up, okay? And one of the main, it's very early on, and this is the dates, this is August 11th, 2017, summer of 2017, after Trump's been elected. He hasn't been arrested yet, or he hasn't been I don't think the raid on his home has happened yet, even though they are zeroing in on him. They haven't really started to squeeze and apply pressure to him just yet. So, but he says to Hannity, all right, he says, the establishment feels like they have to kill Trump. Their existence depends on it. I'm just roadkill to them. This is Manafort speaking to Hannity. DT, Donald Trump has to be destroyed. They will go after Jared and the family next. Okay, Jared was a fairly big part of Trump's campaign. But I do find it odd that his name jumps right out as like the person that the special counsel is going to go after. Then the next statement, could be taken a number of different ways. But if you just think about it for a minute, Russia is history now that they have the special counsel. And I mean, initially, because of my predisposed thoughts, that I'm thinking, all the stuff that are all assumptions. I don't know these things for a fact, obviously. That Trump and Hillary conspired to fix the election, that Trump had, the dirt on Hillary. He had the 33,000 emails, was able to blackmail her into losing on purpose, and that he got those from somewhere. Initially, I thought it was the Russians, but maybe because he seems so badly to want us to think he worked with the Russians, that it can't be them, and that, they haven't benefited by him anyways. But Israel has. Maybe it was the Israelis. So with that, you would think that's what they're talking about. But that's not. I'm not suggesting that. What I am suggesting that, it's basically what he's saying here, I think, is with the special counsel, proving there was collusion with the Russians isn't necessary. They can basically just go after misdeeds, whether it's in their finances, get them to lie to the authorities, to the special counsel, to the FBI, and that's a crime, perjury, traps, whatever. And that's what he may be suggesting there, that that's out the window, Russia collusion. But if that's the case, why does he pinpoint Jared? And it just really stands out to me. Why? Why wouldn't he just go? Why wouldn't they just go after Trump and the family? Why is it that Jared is a singular focus? Maybe he worked with Jared in the campaign, and that's why. I don't know. And his name comes up again in a couple, several times. But he was a big part of the campaign, so I don't want to make. I'm just pointing these out and illustrating it. And also, even before, I didn't know some of the things I later learned about Jared Kushner and Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu, that his family and Benjamin Netanyahu, they have ties that go back years. And I didn't know that before I came up with this theory, all right? I had no idea of that, and I'll show that to you in a second. So, but he comes up again. Here it's, I think, Hannity. He says, Hannity's just says, what do I think plan is for JK? JK is Jared Kushner. Question mark. Son-in-law. He meant to say son-in-law. It would be a major escalation if they do, and a sign that they fear the corruption you are exposing and need to change the narrative. How did the call go? He's talking about Manafort was putting Hannity in touch with an attorney, with regards to all of this. And Hannity says, good. I asked him to feed me every day, basically information to talk about on the show, things exploding tonight, watch tonight. He has to send me stuff. He will every day. What do I think plan is for JK? Question mark. Then that's strange because Hannity's asking him, what does Hannity, what do he says, I think plan is for JK. He's asking Manafort, are you asking me that? I guess. And that just kind of comes out of nowhere. And then his question mark, I don't know what you mean. Because he knows who JK is. I don't know, it's weird. And it comes up one more time. It may come up more here. It says, why don't you get a sweetheart deal like Gates? They would want me to give up DT or family, especially JK. I would never do that. Why is it especially JK? I understand there's nothing to give up on DT. What did JK do? That's Sean Hannity. Nothing, just like I did nothing. They will want me to make shit up on both. I will never do that. OMG, our system is so messed up. Whatever. So, Hannity's talking just like he does in his show here. I guess that's supposed to mean that's the way he is in real life, the way he is on his show. But to me, it seems like he's absolutely performing these texts. It totally does. But they probably both are. So, but whichever. But like I was saying, the Kushner family and Benjamin Netanyahu, and it may just be financial in nature, but they have a relationship that goes back years. Netanyahu literally stayed at Kushner's home in New York City, I guess, at times when he would visit the States. Netanyahu did earlier in his career, years ago, before he was prime minister, but he held a number of different posts. I've seen him around he was educated in the United States, I think at MIT, super smart, Netanyahu. His brother's a massive war hero. I think they both served in the Israeli war, but his brother died actually in an extremely bold raid where they basically rescued hostages, I think in Uganda. That was just amazing. And he was the only person who died, and they did rescue all the hostages. It was like this unbelievable thing. His brother's a huge hero, and anyway, Netanyahu. But he studied in the States at MIT. MIT's amazing. His English is obviously absolutely perfect, and he was the finance minister, in during his time, the Israeli economy did extremely well. It usually does extremely well anyways. The Israeli stock market is a very good thing, a very good stock market, even though it's very small. The companies that belong to it, the Israeli companies, are exceptional companies, etc. But during his time, earlier in his career, he would stay there. At least he did on one occasion. I think he bunked in Jared Kushner's room. Like when Jared Kushner's just a teenager, 17 years old, like they're bunking in the same room together. Netanyahu. And that's what it says in this article. And the families just are close. And I believe Jared Kushner's father would pay his speaking fees for him to come to the States and give speeches on more than one occasion, large speaking fees, like a couple $100,000, whatever, which isn't unusual for somebody like Benjamin Netanyahu, but Jared Kushner's father's paying those fees. They have ties together. So, and I didn't even know any of this before I was suggesting this idea that, that it was maybe the Israelis that helped Trump. And the Israelis, particularly Netanyahu, I'll get this in a second, were no fan of Obama, big time. And so let me just go through some. As a member of prominent Jewish, and this is, a Jewish publication, as an Israeli publication, the Haaretz, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that wrong. As a member of a prominent American Jewish family, it is no surprise that U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor, Jared Kushner, won't be meeting Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for the first time when the Israeli leader arrives in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday. When was this published? 2017, February, right around when those texts were, in the middle of it, between Hannity and Manafort. So, but an exhaustive profile on the Kushner-Netanyahu connection in Sunday's New York Times reveals new details of the extent and depth of the acquaintance between the two men. who will sit in the Oval Office on February 15th to discuss peace within the Middle East. It turns out that Netanyahu spent the night in Kushner's bed when he was a guest in the Kushner home on a trip to the United States before becoming prime minister. Jared, a teenager at the time, bunked in the basement for the night. The profile also recalled how later, at age 17, Kushner listened to Netanyahu's address, the March of the Living, at the Auschwitz Birkenau crematorium in 1998 during his first stint as prime minister. The sleepover wasn't the only time Netanyahu paid his respects to the Kushner clan. The article detailed a visit in which he shared a tabbouleh lunch, visited Jared Kushner's father, Charles, at his office, and played soccer at one of the Jewish day schools bearing the Kushner family name, with Joshua Kushner, Jared's younger brother. Over the course of the campaign and through the transition, the woes of Charles Kushner were extensively reported. The feud between Kushner and his extended family regarding misuse of the family company funds that led him to commit tax fraud, illegal contributions, and suborning a witness. This landed him a 2-year prison sentence on which he served 14 months. What was less widely known, the Times revealed, was when Murray Kushner, Charles's brother, filed a suit against him. Part of the misuse of funds included paying hundreds of thousands of speaking fees to Netanyahu. More evidence of the close Kushner-Netanyahu connection is the fact that Charles Kushner was placed highly on a leaked list of billionaires and millionaires, both Israeli and foreigners, Netanyahu compiled as potential donors in 2017. The names were organized into 4 categories as to who was most likely to contribute. Kushner was high on the list alongside names like Sheldon Adelson and Ron Lauder. Sheldon Adelson just visited Israel with the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, and I mentioned him. That's completely off topic, but it's sort of not. When Ron DeSantis went to Israel as sort of a pro-Israeli thing, signing legislation, some kind of anti-hate legislation that people said was improper. It's not important, but whatever. Let me just continue. So Donald Trump was on that list as well, but he was in the lowest category as to being somebody likely to donate. But Charles Kushner, Jared Kushner's father, was in the top category. So they just have, they have a history together. So, and I don't know how many people are aware of this, but I've heard about it. They talk radio. They talked about this extensively. Mark Levin does, who's extremely pro-Israeli. The fact that Obama's administration put efforts towards getting Netanyahu helping Netanyahu's opponent, and in fact, according to this Washington Times article, which is a conservative outlet, said spent taxpayer money to U.S. taxpayer money to help his opposition defeat him, according to this article. I don't really want to read the whole thing. The State Department paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxpayer grants to an Israeli group that used the money to build a campaign to oust Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And in last year's Israeli parliamentary elections, a congressional investigation concluded Tuesday. This is dated, when is this dated? 2016. And that's a study of a previous election. I don't know exactly when that was. The point being, it's prior to 2016, the point being, Netanyahu had, these two did not like each other at all. And, basically, the Obama administration was meddling in Israeli politics, meddling in Israeli elections to try to get him defeated, Benjamin Netanyahu. So my whole theory, of maybe it was the Israelis that provided the emails to Trump, that he used Hillary's emails to blackmail her into losing on purpose, could have come from, that sort of makes sense given all this, given all the ties between Netanyahu and the Kushner family and Jared Kushner. And, so when I saw these texts between between Hannity and Manafort, and Jared Kushner comes up multiple times, and he was part of the campaign, so that's natural. And Manafort was temporarily Trump's campaign manager. It still stood out to me, and these dots started to connect themselves for me. So now I'm just showing it to you. But this statement that I started with was the one that that struck me the most. And it's the one where he says, Russia's out the window now that now that there's a special counsel. Let me try to get to it quickly. And initially, I reread it and rethought it several times before I understood that it actually prompted me to make the video. So, where he says Russia is history now that they have the special counsel, and again, I basically understood that to mean now that they don't have a special counsel, they don't have to prove Russia collusion. They can prove anything. They can prove anything. They can go after your finances, get you flying, whatever. But but if that's the case, why is he saying they will go after Jared and the family next? Why is it the Jared and the family, not just the family? Why is it Jared? Because Russia's off the table. Russia doesn't matter anymore because they got a special counsel. Why is it Jared? And everything I just explained is maybe why it's Jared. And that's the story there, man. That's the story there. All right, well, thanks for watching my videos. It's another mess, but, it is what it is. And that's it. That's it. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. See you in the next video. Later, man.